funny thing I have it when I'm thinking of like mindset. I was thinking of how like the way I've kind of had the characters. Some of them are repeating a little bit. There's two Sean's and D, and then there's like one me and one Maurice. But then there's Genesis, Coldbeard, and Eula.
Add Navara for flavor.
Yeah, well, yeah.
You have clone Navara too.
Well, that's where the way that the end kind of like the child planet, the normal planet, is going to be Eula and Ivar together.
I love how many
And
people cloned her. Like, that was hilarious.
that was hilarious. I am not surprised at all. The funny part was how mad she was about it. It was probably the best part, and like rightly so.
Like, literally every time. Like, what the fuck is wrong with you people? They're all like, oh, we're just gathering your parts. Like, 6 of you growing around the universe right now.
I didn't take her DNA. That was the funniest part too. But like, I ended up. It was because of the other version. That was too funny. Welcome to the Villains Talk Show. I'm gonna say the intro now because C4 has been trying to get to it. I'm Insaniac, and with me we have the Elusive Gentleman. And C4 sitting there in abstract, just enjoying of my intro. Yeah, welcome to the talk show. I don't remember else what I was gonna say. That's all I got.
Hello and welcome to the Villains Talk Show and Podcast. As Insaniac said, we are the Elusive Gentleman, Insaniac, and C4. Grease Boy can't make it with us tonight. And first of all, I'd like to shout out our Patreons, Rujhala and For the Wheel. Thank you as always. If you want to help support the show, just like, share, subscribe, and all the fun stuff. Otherwise, yeah. Hello and welcome. It's talk show day. I hope you all had a good week. They were talking about D&D.
It is today. We were talking about our D&D as our campaign had finished not too long ago. We're just a number of us have been finishing. As for those who have seen our talk show or like the 2-Shot Fridays, the last one and this one coming, we all have done a little bit of touch-up fun stuff from the end of our games to just kind of have our own personal wrap-ups in certain ways.
I mean, I could do a preview for the 2-Shot this week. I have it. I have the write-up right here.
I mean, if you'd like to, you can. Well, maybe a little bit at the end as a teaser, or if you
okay, no, we'll do it at the end as a teaser. Because this week's 2-Shot is my 2-Shot, and I've been thinking up this write-up for quite a while, so I'm excited.
I'm excited.
That being
actually,
said, today
I'd like you to send me some of that stuff. If you don't.
Okay. Today. Hello and welcome to today.
Today is
the topic
is the 9th of June.
You may find a little confusing, but don't worry, we will unpack it.
We will unpack it.
But I've titled it "The Great Canadian," or the Canadian Government Conspiracy, or depending if you're watching on the podcast, it'll be the Great Canadian Conspiracy.
Great financial escape.
The great financial
That's
escape.
A good way, yeah.
Now this topic,
the build back worse.
I will start with this.
The hollaback billionaire.
This is based off of a bunch of things, but the conspiracy theory that I'll eventually get to, the core of what today's topic, I actually didn't come up with it. This is something I was told by someone who's part of the community, and apparently that seems to be the underlying feeling that a lot of people in that community are feeling, and we'll get into that. So what's going on? What's the business? Let's start this. So anyone who doesn't care about Canadian politics, which is probably the other 7.2 billion people that live outside our country, there's been a huge. One of the biggest contentious things in our country is like 60 and 70 years ago and 80 years ago and 100 years ago, the wonderful white settlers of this country basically screwed over massive native populations, First Nations populations. Just absolutely screwed them over. And recently, one of those many times that the government screwed them over finally got I wouldn't say overturned, but amended, I guess would be the best word for it.
Do you know which time, by any chance? I don't know at all.
I'm not too sure, so I don't want to say anything specific because I don't. It's a relatively sensitive topic, so I don't want to be too wrong on it. I'll leave myself a little bit of leeway, but anything like that, I'll just be vague until I actually get facts.
I'm not sure either. So
but I do know is that in the essence of what happened is this group, this band, I believe that's the correct term, band. This one band of First Nations people were awarded a huge sum of money. I don't know the exact number. I know it's over $1 billion, which they deserve completely. But this is where things get a little gray. And of course, the Prime Minister went to Alberta, went down to their land, and they're going to work out giving them they're giving them way more because they cut them a bunch of land, so they're giving them way more crown land, as well as anyone who's part of this band, this First Nations band, will get a payout. Now, what it works out to, from what I heard from, so to back up a little bit, someone who's close to me, they are not part of this First Nations group, but their husband is, and therefore their children are as well. And so they will be receiving this. And this is where things get kind of murky, because they are part of a group of people that apparently, I didn't hear about this, but for the last 6 months, knowing that this was going to happen and that they were actually going to get this money, they were hoping for some level of government oversight, because they were scared at first that the sum of money that eventually will be coming to these people, 18 or older, will be $20,000 as of, I believe, July 1st, and then by October 1st they get another 10,000, and then I think in April of next year they get another 10,000 for a total of 40. And if they're 16 and over, they get 10,000, and then it's parceled out even more. But the point is recently in BC, now it's not legal, but they also decriminalized almost, I think it's every drug, cocaine, meth. You still can't sell it, that's illegal, but if you have it on you, you can't go to jail. And so what this person told me, which got me thinking, was they said, isn't it funny that they're giving my family this amount of money, and my son who's just turned 18, and he's going to get $20,000 for the first time in his life, and I'm scared he's just going to go out to BC and blow it all on cocaine and kill himself. And I just kind of stood there and I was like, huh. And then they went on to tell me how there's this belief right now that the government did this purposely, and the reason they're parceling out the money purposely is because essentially like a secret way to thin out the population. And
it's not like we've seen it before.
There's really no nice way to say it. And the Canadian, I would not put that past the Canadian government. It's not like they are the nicest. Yeah, it's not like they're the nicest fucking people. So
no, they didn't. Oh yeah, no.
Now this is all conspiracy theory, but coincidences are coincidences. It just so happens that the province that's literally 2 hours away by drive just so happened to decriminalize every drug. And what? And then 2 months later, every person in this rather large First Nations group is getting $20,000 for Canada Day for a long weekend. Like, like you're right, Insaniac. Like, how many
I was gonna say,
coincidences? How many
well,
coincidences
do
do
you know
you
what they
line up in a
call?
row?
Do you know what they call more than one coincidence, and that happens over and over? It's called synchronicity.
But yeah, so that is the essence of today's topic. Is
I
yeah.
mean, it's kind of not surprising in one sense.
But but
Like I
would
said, it's you see it in South Park did an episode about it in one sense where and I think they've legitimately done it in history where they give smallpox blankets and shit like this, right?
but do you think that
It's the
means
same kind of thing.
so? But then that leads me to think, and maybe I'm just giving too much credit here.
They're giving them the Las Vegas cure, I guess, is the
Yeah,
way to
yeah.
go.
Maybe I'm giving him too much credit here, but there's no way, at least in my mind, or maybe I'm not giving him enough, that this is something Justin Trudeau planned. He seems too dumb.
He doesn't plan it. No, he's just the mascot for it. He definitely doesn't plan it. That's what Biden is too. Biden's an idiot. Everyone knows that.
Biden's
But,
a
like,
marionette. They just probably get
exactly.
across the
Right?
street.
Everyone knows that. But like, come on, these guys are so inept. It's hard to be like, who else could like? There's obviously they're following by a council or something.
All right, so
Or
let's.
fucking obviously WEF nonsense. But like, who the fuck cares really? To a certain point, because they're just stupid. It's like it's obvious, right? But then like you look at stuff right now and like where like I have one like I don't know, I'm not trying to derail on my talk, but where I recently saw a tweet from apparently in Ohio they
Such
a
a
tweet from
what hard hitting journalism.
yeah, well, it's not just the hard-hitting journalism, but it's actually like about like politics and shit that like the Ohio House of Representatives actually put to a vote to put Canada on a watch list for religious freedoms.
For
Well,
what?
and specifically on a watch list for religious freedoms, and specifically Justin Trudeau for not adhering to Christian religious freedoms.
Oh, that makes sense.
Because he hasn't done anything to church burnings, and one of the pastors, Arthur Pulaski from I'm pretty sure out there in Alberta, he makes a lot of noise every time he gets arrested,
Mhm.
and it has been for the past 2 years.
My older sister, has some horror stories from Ohio. That's a
Yeah,
very religious place.
Yeah, so they have a vote that they put forward to condemn Canada and put it on
We have listeners from
religious
Ohio.
freedoms watch list.
If you're one of our listeners who's out there in Ohio, like tell us what it's like. If you're religious, if you're not, like we do have quite a few out there in Ohio, and I've heard some stories about Ohio both ways. I've heard it's beautiful cities, but then I've heard out in the rural areas it can get kind of dicey. So yeah, anyone out there, give us a shout. Let us know what it's like in Ohio.
Although Ohioans,
Oh, the Ohioans. Is it?
Yeah,
Would it
Ohioans.
be Ohioans or
I have no idea.
Ohioans?
Ohioans.
I think
That sounds weirder.
I think I'd prefer Ahoyan.
That sounds stranger, but more interesting at the same time.
Right? But all right, so it sounds like we're all pretty much just, well, at least both of you seem to be just this is within the Canadian government's possibility.
Most likely, especially out of the things that we've seen. Come on now.
Yeah. Oh
It's
yeah.
not very unlikely, especially like with a number of things that like there was a banking scandal I think where RBC some bank in Toronto had recently arrested like 4 higher up executives for like fraud and like transferring money and some other shit around. So I wouldn't be surprised if there's been some money manipulation in certain places behind the government when they had the initiative to be able to do so without having any legal problems about it. And they still have the ability to technically do that.
Well, I think, I mean,
Well, and then I mean, how long ago was it before we started unburying some schools?
yeah. No, like,
Right. And that's there's a limit to certain points when evidence is very clear. and like it's hard to say this is. Oh, you're imagining things, guys.
Well, it's more like when I mean I can understand for our American audience and for audiences who are not live in Canada, they may not understand because if they like in Americans, for example, all you American listeners out there, you guys elect your senators and you elect everyone who's part of your parliament. In Canada, we don't. Our senators are appointed and are appointed for life. Only some places, I think Alberta is one of the few, actually elect the members of Senate. And so when you hear cries about how Canada is secretly run by old white people, old Christian white people, and like how it's all pomp and circumstance because nothing really changes. If you ever heard that,
Old
that's
British Christian white people.
that's usually why. Because when you do have a senator finally kick the bucket or actually retire, a new senator is appointed by the Senate. So basically, they keep their boys club as a boys club, and so it's also why I don't put anything past this. This is why when I hear this kind of stuff, it's the level of plausibility is disgusting. That's a good way to put it. The level of plausibility behind fucking conspiracy theories like that is just absolutely abhorrent. The fact that you can propose to me that the reason they're releasing money in waves is because they're hoping that with the $20,000 a bunch of these people go and fucking blow their brains out with fucking cocaine, and then they can't
Just
take
being
the
off 2 years of lockdowns.
yeah, and they can't. Yeah, exactly. After just being off 2 years of lockdowns and being stuck in their fucking house for 2 years, here's 20 grand. Go have fun. It's the summer, and like all of a sudden they don't have to pay the other 20 grand because they're dead. Like I can't.
Exactly.
The fact that I can't sit here and say no, that's not fucking possible is just it's mind blowing. And usually I'm a pessimist, but
It's a little sad when it's just right obvious in your face.
sad. It's absolutely disgusting. Like
That's what I mean. Like not just disgusting, but I mean sad in the way of like they're not trying to hide their nonsense sometimes. It's ridiculous. They just don't care.
no, they really don't. People don't care, and it's
It's so painful.
Well, yeah, it's all about keeping the rich powerful.
of course. I mean, you have this. You have so. How do I word
There's only
this?
so much you can do when the entire parliament has mostly sold out, man.
They always. It's always about push away and make money. That's what governments usually boil down to. How much can you push away and how much can you make money off it?
I mean,
Those are the
that's
two
pretty clear.
questions. Those are the two questions you usually ask yourself as a government. And I'm not saying I learned this from any text. It's just if you really think about like governments on a global scale, it always comes down to how do we make money and how do we push this under the rug, or how do we push other people away so we can do this.
I mean, like, yeah, it's too funny because you look at the way the Emergency Act ended, and you look at the way like Justin's stupid like announcement, and like the only reason he shut it down was because he almost created the largest bank run that quite literally almost crashed our economy. And he's so petty about it. He's like, we said this was temporary, like, because he's so upset.
See,
because
now
he
that's the
knew,
problem.
Like, the people had the power that day when they literally took all their money out of the bank and the bank almost crashed.
No.
So much
You're missing what I'm saying. The problem is you're blaming the elected officials.
I'm not blaming him, but I know he's getting blamed, so he has to take responsibility.
And that's what they want you to do. It's like sports, right? In sports,
I
you
could
have
care less. I know he's just one fucking idiot standing up here.
you
but at the
have
same time-
lightning rods, right? That's the point.
Yeah.
In everything, you have a lightning rod. In companies, in sports
But
organizations. You
it's
have
hard
lightning
to
rods.
not you can't like interchange some of these rods, right? Because it still means you still have to hold each one accountable in a certain outcome,
But that's
right?
that's how the rich get you. That's how these rich people or people who actually stay in power get you. Is you gravitate to the lightning rod with everyone else, then they stay in
Wow,
power and they just.
that's where you have the different. That's where you have different districts that do different things. But you're right.
But that's what it always comes down to, and that's what makes conspiracy theories even more believable, because you hear about these people getting, or sorry, you hear about people getting mad at certain things, and then they go after the face of it. Best example for anyone listening is like Donald Trump. It was easy to go after Donald Trump because he's a fucking idiot. But in the reality, he's just one guy. You should look at the people who were enacting his decisions. Like,
Well, and there's a lot going on.
and those people
but,
knew. Like, if you really want to get down and dirty, every time the focus shifted from him to the actual people enacting his decisions, they'd fucking jump ship because they knew it was bad luck. So it's.
But for me, it's something that I find also really interesting. Like lately, it's a lot of, it's to me, it's the funny thing is that the difference between a conspiracy and the theory itself, like there's actively more or less a sub level of conspiracy going on, but like
A sub level of
there,
conspiracy.
there's
Like,
at least an
the
intro of
Canadian,
something
the
going
Canadian
on.
conspiracy.
There's very evidential proof at this point that there's some nonsense going on of like
It's the great polar bear mole people
right? It's not hard to
of
tell.
Cabin Tra.
But like, depending how deep you want to like investigate, that's up to each person.
They
But
they live on the Isle of Baffin.
But there's very clearly a genuine like working together to not like keep certain things. When you have a coalition in power right now, that's a not coalition. It's hard to say that things are not going to move forward.
But that's a catch-22 at the same time. Like anyone not in power, but anyone learned will tell you that the more people making a decision, the more stupid the decision will be. As soon as you have more than 50 people in a room, you can't make any decisions. Especially it breaks down. Mob mentality is usually what takes over. And that's how you have mass amounts of people doing stupid things, like letting some French guy take power who just wants to cut off people's heads. it's
Yeah.
It's the idea that you need people who are actually intelligent and learned in terms of social, economic, and not political, but in terms of GDP and grand structure of trade. You need those people, but at the same time, you need to have them to a certain level of accountability, as well as you need to have them be genuine in their enacting of what they're doing. Like, because you can't just be completely stingent on business and try to attack the rich guy, because then you'll get no foreign investment, and the rich people that stay in your country will eventually go bankrupt, and then next thing you know, your country will slowly lose money and you'll turn into Soviet Union. Or you'll be forced to open up like China. Because
you have
China
to be open to a lot of certain things, yeah. So it's this I don't blame you, man. I just did it too, so
China has to
there's this balance where you have to understand what trade is and you have to be open to certain things, but at the same time you have to think of ethical trading and like who the people that are actually conducting helpful products or things that are like not actively trying to fuck shit over. You know, it's
the
hard
problem
to tell
is
sometimes, but if you actually investigate the people that you discuss and like involve yourself with, it's not always that hard to tell.
But what the fuck does ethical trading mean? Like,
you involve yourself with people that actually are working towards similar like goals. Like they talk about climate change. If you're working towards climate change, you work with people that actually actionally work towards that instead of just talk about it and have donations like charities that don't go anywhere. But you actually have fundamental programs and things that work towards whatever climate change is being worked on.
It's not climate change, it's man, bear, pig.
Well, yeah, I saw that. There's not really much in the way of climate change you need to work on, in my opinion. It's just understanding how the planet actually shifts, because climate change happens as the planet ages and adjusts its magnetic sphere, which happens every certain amount of years.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if you go by the way Al Gore set it up, it was literally just a free way to put tax into
Oh, it
those
absolutely
markets.
was. Yeah, it was a way to make it. I mean, it was a way to make it a profit.
Mhm.
But if we're going to turn it into that, let's turn it into a reason to make it into something that's actually useful.
Well, I mean, if it's already profitized, they might as well do something with the money.
Exactly, right. Instead of wasting the time with nonsense, or saying we're gonna put it here and then not put it somewhere where it's not needed, or fill somebody else's fucking stupid pocket, right? Or hand it else to another company that's going to invest in the thing that's destroying the economy, right? That's what's ethical trading. It's understanding who your resources partners are. Again, it needs to come a difference between the casual stock market where you're just putting shit on a sale for the market to take, and you're actually discussing with people who are trading with you and understanding what they actually want to trade in, what they do personally. What does their company drive, their CEO or whoever holds these stakeholders, the majority of them, what are their interests? What do they have in store for that? And working as a community, right? It's something that's actually they talked about in the WEF in their thing, but it's community stakeholdership in a certain thing, but thoughtful process, not like in a way that's trying to fuck shit over. Because then you can actually probably orientate the market a little bit better because you're working as a community to fluctuate certain things if you wanted to.
All right. There's a bunch to unpack there, so I'm gonna try and take that slowly. Um, you're, the problem is what you're describing only works on a small scale.
Well, I
Like
would imagine.
when you're
But
looking
that's
when you're looking at a small group of, even you could even say like 1 million people, that will work because you have a closed group of 1 million people that are essentially controlling trade within a small area. But once you start incorporating not even countries, just masses of people, you have to switch to what we have, which is now factory farming essentially, or mass crop farming.
yeah.
And then
I mean,